Hey, Melinda, it's good to talk to you again.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing good. School just
Hmm.
started. What do you think about that?
Why don't you tell me what you think about that?
Well, we just completed day 10, and I have to say, it's like more smooth than normal. Everybody's really excited. The students are excited. But one thing that I might think about this year
Mm.
is, okay, if you are a student who's late all the time by 3 minutes, like, why are you late by 3 minutes in the morning? Like, why can't you just be early for 3 minutes? Like, can we do that?
Great question. So if someone's late by 3 minutes, do you let them in?
Well, they have to get a late pass, and then we let them in, yeah.
Okay. When I was in law school, there were certain professors where they would not let you in.
Oh, not
Maybe
at
they,
all?
not at all. Maybe that's the move.
Maybe that,
Maybe
and they
that's
just and they just go home. You just went home?
no, they have to know what's going on because it could be on the test. I mean, in law school, it could be on the exam, right? So you just literally hover outside the door. You are
Mm,
shamed for not being on time.
I like that. Okay, so maybe I'll do that. Great.
Yeah, yeah.
How about you, Melinda? How are things here
Can
for
I
you?
just say also, I think it's really funny that you're like, we're on day 10 as if you're like a survivor on an island.
Yeah.
Day
T
10 has
uh,
gone by.
10 days down, 165 to go.
You're
That's
just making
basically.
tick marks on the wall.
Yeah.
I'm doing well. I'm currently fostering two kittens. So if you hear meows, tiny little meows in the background, that is what that is. My cat, the main cat of this house, is an angsty teenager who has basically shut herself upstairs and will not come downstairs anymore. Um,
Your fostering continues. Like, you
yes,
had your dog and now the
yes.
cats. You're like a real achiever on the fostering.
I've become Melinda's hotel for wayward and cute animals.
Mhm.
That is who we are, to my own cat's dismay.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Yeah. But you're also doing other stuff, like you
Yeah.
continue. Well, you have a new thing that's coming up, an IRL experience. Can you talk about that?
Yes, MGC IRL, all of the alphabet. I'm doing Melinda's Grief Corner, but in person, live, through an organization called the Dinner Party. The Dinner Party serves the grieving community ages 21 to 45, which is an underserved grieving community. A lot of times, grief groups are, whether digital, like whether virtual or in person, are for people who are older. But you lose people at any age. You don't get to decide when that happens. And I have was a dinner party member in that I was a member of a table in DC, and now I have started my own table down here in coastal Virginia, Southeast Virginia, that is on September 13th. So if you are a fan of MGC and also happen to be in the area, that Venn diagram that we love, I would love to meet you in person on September 13th. There will be a link to sign up. You can learn more about that as I talk about it more in my newsletter.
That sounds really cool. So when is it on the 13th?
3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, obviously,
Okay.
since we'll be together in person.
Okay. And there are article clubbers and MGC devotees out there, right? But the question is, sir, because I don't know geography, they will know, but I don't know. Like, how close is that to different parts of the overall Virginia, DC area?
It would be 3 hours south of DC. So sadly, unless you would like to make this a day trip for DC, I don't recommend. If you were in Central Virginia, I'm about 90 minutes from Richmond.
Okay.
That is the capital of Virginia. I'm also very close to the North Carolina border. The Outer Banks are probably like a 30, 40-minute drive. It's been a
Mhm.
while since I've driven out to the Outer Banks. But, just because it's in coastal Virginia does not mean that if you are in North Carolina, you are not welcome. If you're willing to make the drive, we are
Wow.
here for you.
Crossing state lines. That's amazing.
That would be the ultimate MGC devotee. The idea there's a devotee out there.
I love it. Well, thanks for the geography lesson. It's so funny because like there's other states that are big. Like Virginia keeps on going.
Yeah, but Mark, you're in California. California is basically the entire West Coast. No shade to like Oregon and Washington. California is essentially the entire West Coast.
Yeah. Well, that is very cool. So we want more IRL experiences, whether it's for MGC with the dinner table or like, also with Article Club. So, if you're out there and you want to have chapters of IRL experiences, like let us know, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. So, okay, well, this week and this month, we're excited to talk about a new article for September. And Melinda, as much as I try to get away from AI because everybody's talking about it, I can't get enough, but it's especially if they're good. And so this
Yes.
article this month, I just couldn't put it down. Long title, here it is. It was called What happened when I tried to replace myself with ChatGPT in my English classroom? And it's by Piers Gelly, and it was in LitHub in July 28th, 2025. And this is an article about a professor at the University of Virginia who sort of changes up his classroom to
Mm.
engage with ChatGPT as well as his students. And I just have to say that it was different for me. First of all, it was well written, but also it was
Yes.
different because all these articles that I have been reading from professors are all of these like, I hate it. It's like I don't like it, lamenting. Everybody's just complaining, but like not really
Yeah.
doing nothing
Hmm.
about it. And
Right.
so this was a little bit different. And I heard from you like that this article also is sort of like right up your alley as well.
Yeah, this is Melinda Catnip. I also believe there's Mark Catnip. I think we all know education articles around there. Yeah, this was made for me. I was an English major at the University of Virginia. Graduated 15 years ago. So obviously a different time there was no AI. I had a blue book experience. I wrote out my exams. So this is yeah, but can picture myself in that classroom. I also am fascinated by AI, as everyone knows. I'm always like, "Oh my God, is the internet our downfall?" I think that's my theme. I thought it was really interesting because I kind of feel like you go on a journey with him. Like it's an open-ended question in the beginning. And you kind of just like instead of the articles that you were just mentioning, where it like starts off with a thesis, and the thesis is normally like, this is the downfall of humanity.
Mhm.
Piers just poses the question, like, what would happen if we embraced this, or at least folded it into our daily lives, into my rubric in my classroom? Like, how would my students react? And I think that's interesting. And also interesting because it's probably like not, it's kind of perfect, it seems like, for a college classroom to like do a little experiment. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I liked a lot of just how he constructed it. Even this idea that it's a first year course, like 18 students in each of his classes. Do you remember, did you have to take one of these sort of first
Yes.
year?
Yeah,
Like,
everyone takes like an English writing class their first year. It's always really small. It's like less than 20 people. Yeah.
I was really appreciative of how he sort of set up the whole thing. Number one, what you just said, which is like, it's actually a real question. Like, basically, am I needed as a professor? But also, what does it mean to teach and learn with AI sort of more in a real way, like as an authentic question? So I like
Yeah.
that. But the other thing that I liked is that he sort of started the class with a survey about like what students thought about it. And then at the end of the semester, he concluded with another survey to sort of see how his students may have shifted their views. And there were some surprises, but I don't know, this guy Piers, this professor who you'll hear from in a couple of weeks, he just really seems to be very effective, like in how he's bringing this to his students.
I think so. And I think maybe the reason, and and I want to know what you think about this. I think the reason that he's effective is because he's curious. Like he might, I mean, obviously we're all people, we have our own opinions and assumptions. And as you were saying, like there's so much AI, like so many think pieces out there. So it's, if you don't have an opinion, you've probably read somebody else's. So you kind of can know what the temperature is. But I think that is an interesting way to approach something without like judgment and to encourage his students to have their own opinion, regardless of his feelings, right? I mean, and he does talk about that a little bit where it's like, I don't think some people wanted to hurt my feelings, but some people were like actually really brave and just really honest with me about how they felt about AI. And to give this space for people over the course of several months, right? Like a semester to really sit in this, use this several times, think about this question, formulate their own opinion based on their own experience, like watch them grow. Like it's far more dynamic than again the think pieces that you were talking about earlier, where it's like doomsday scenario. Oh God, this is the end of creativity and humanity as we know it. This feels more alive.
Yeah, and clearly he's connected with his students as well. In the piece, he
Yes.
talks about his students, he talks about the different activities he does and to engage with AI. I just got this idea that he's a good teacher too. Um,
Not surprised because he is at the University of Virginia. But again, I'm biased.
well, a- and also like, okay, so we did talk a little bit also that he's a millennial as well. So yeah, this is not a stereotypical,
Love
elder.
that.
And so I think he is more engaged and I think he is more curious as well. But what really came through for me is he really does care about his students.
Hmm.
Like the idea that, because it's not just that he has 18 students per class, he has an overall 72 students, I guess,
Yes.
over the course of the year.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I was really struck by the community that he sort of like that comes through in the piece, which is
Mm.
like not typical, I don't think, in a lot of colleges. And I do
Interesting.
wonder if that's also part of his effectiveness. Like not only is he curious, but I feel like he's not just, lecturing and or not caring. Like I actually feel he really is interested in like the community of the classroom.
That's interesting because I always felt that way in all of my English classes. I mean, obviously there were large lectures I had to take as an English major, right? Like you would take like Shakespeare classes, and those are large. Those are like 100 to 200 people. But I always did feel like in discussion groups and like smaller classes that there was a sense of wanting to be engaged, wanting to be creatively curious. I never took a class in the English department at UVA and felt like the person was not invested. I hate to sound like an advertisement for the University of Virginia, everybody, but is anyone really shocked by that? But I think that there's like a sense of, yeah, he wants to cultivate them not just as students, but as people. Like they're not just obviously like, this is a required class. Like they have to take it. They all know that. And he knows that. And I think maybe part of the reason why you are right. He's very invested and he can cultivate a community inside of his classroom. But I think part of that is also he's really transparent,
Mhm.
which I don't think you can get. Not everyone has that, right? And I respect him for that a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. And because of that, he is able, I think, in a genuine way to find out about what's happening, with regard to AI. He's very inventive with some of the activities that he does, and I'm just
Hmm.
appreciative that he talks about it. A lot of essays, they just sort of say, "Oh, I had a class and it was bad." But he actually talks about specific things. He, for example, has like AI sort of like create titles for their
Yeah.
different essays, and
Yeah, that's
they're
fun.
they're all the same, so like that's also interesting. But the biggest moment, comes where this student named Max, who, by the way, you will also get to listen to, because not only
Exciting.
not only is the interview with peers, it's also with two of the students, Cam and Max. And there's this big moment in the piece where there's an activity where they sort of like write essays and they try to figure out which one was created by AI.
Hmm.
And I remember reading it. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Because what happens, I guess we should do the spoiler. What happens is that they can't figure out which one is human and which one is AI.
Yeah. And that made me go down like a deep thought spiral about like, oh my God, because AI is combing, right? Like a lot of content, aka all content. And so it's like, oh no, do we have expectations of what something should sound like? And so therefore, yeah, it's that moment I'm sure in the sci-fi movie where you're like, oh my God, the machines have taken over.
Like, for example, you get a lot of emails right now. Like, do you care if something is from a human anymore?
I mean, I assume that like all emails that are like advertisements are not human. I mean, whenever you go into, I mean, we had an article about this with like chatbots. Like, I assume anytime I put a question to a chatbot, it's not a person.
No,
Like,
I'm talking about like you think it's actually from a person, and clearly
oh,
and clearly they've just AI'd it.
so I guess I don't get very many like emails from people, but I guess people could do that with text messages.
Hmm.
But would people really put that kind of effort in?
Oh yeah, I think it happens all the time. And I think that that's why I'm a little different than peers, because he is curious, but I feel like he's just really open. Like later on in the piece, he sort of talks about like after the class, he's sort of like figuring out like what was going on with some last assignment, and
Hmm.
he's like not as bothered, I think, as I would be. I still have like these notions of I really want somebody to write from their actual like voice and heart and
Hmm.
brain. But again, Piers is like slightly different in that
Yes.
like he's just like more open, and you can really tell, I think, from the
Hmm.
two students who we interview. I again, maybe it's every single professor at UVA, but I was just like really impressed. I was also impressed by the metaphors that they talk about. Like,
Yes.
what
Yeah.
is AI? Is AI a calculator or
No.
not? You don't think so?
I don't think it's a calculator. not to cut you off, I have a very strong opinion about this. AI is not a calculator. AI is like going through and reading and combing people's actual work. And that is not like one plus one equals two. That's not the same, right? Like reading through all of Shakespeare's work, all of Faulkner's work, all of like Octavia Butler's work is not the same. And then regurgitating it out. I just don't believe it's the same as calculator.
Hmm.
I'm open to arguments against that too. Please feel free. Drop them in the comments. I want to hear you. What
Well,
you've
yeah,
got to
they
say.
so they talk about that metaphor, and then it's just really cool, because they actually make meaning of it instead of the professor in an honor code just saying that you can't use it.
Yeah, that was actually, yeah, I wondered about that. Because
Because you had an
UVA is an
honor
honor code.
you had an honor code too.
We did. We had an honor code where like every time we submitted something, always for exams, always for like obviously term papers and stuff, not group projects, things that you did on your own, you had to write out the honor code that said it was like of your own. It's your own work, basically.
Mhm.
It's basically putting like your copyright on there. Being like, I did this, I did not steal it from anyone. This is not me copying somebody else's stuff. It definitely made the community of UVA a really interesting place because it extends out to everything. It's like you don't steal people's stuff. You could just literally like leave your stuff in the library for like days. It would still be there. So yeah, it's an interesting way to like think about that. That's obviously like a community thing. It's not like a world honor code, unfortunately. But I was thinking, not to pivot, but when you were talking about how he's more open, I wonder if the reason why he's more open as a fellow millennial is we've seen and had to like grow up through so many different types of technology taking over. And we've had to learn all of them like at different points in our like early, like late teenage years to like early adulthood. I mean, even when we were like children, right? I mean, we obviously like chat rooms existed and stuff. And so I wonder if it's just like we think of it as like, oh, it's another technology that we're just going to have to learn. So, like, what is this? That's like where he's coming from.
Hmm.
Mm. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. He could have easily just turned it off with an honor code or a plagiarism policy or an AI policy,
Mhm.
but he's like, no, let's do this because it's not going away. Like, whereas I think where we're at my school is that we're just clear about when you can and cannot use it, but we're like not really engaging young people in the dialogue just because we
Mhm.
don't really want to. I'm teaching again another class this year, just like last year. And last year, when I turned off all possibilities for like AI and did sort of like more of a blue book approach, I personally liked it more, but so did my students. But like that's not the real world. You know what I mean? Like
No.
at some point, like peers did, I feel like we actually have to engage or else like it's gonna get in front of us even more.
No, that is true. That's really interesting that people like enjoyed it more, but then it's like, yeah, you've created kind of like a vacuum that doesn't really exist in the real world.
Which is partly okay. I mean, it's okay to be in vacuum experiences
Yes.
sometimes, but like how do
Yeah.
you get out of it? Like part of all of education, obviously, it's like how are we going to apply this to quote
How
unquote
are we
the
going to
real world?
prepare them for the
Yeah.
future?
Yeah. Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
no, you're a no on the calculator, but what about the other one? Like at the end, they were talking about, well, this is Cam's metaphor, which is like more that AI is a crutch.
Oh, that hit me. That hit me. That I thought about that for days. Cam, I'm really glad you're a fellow University of Virginia student, a fellow Wahoo. If you're listening to this, both you and Max, very grateful for both of you. I was like, wow, that is you're gonna do great things. I I felt that. Well, and I think that's the worry, right? I think the worry is like, are we gonna have skills? I mean, I liked the metaphor even before that, where it was like, well, people need to learn how to like actually light a fire if you
Mhm.
don't have matches or a lighter or anything. Like you could find yourself in a position where you don't have the tools that you need, right? There was a student in there, not to keep spoiling this, but there was a student who like there was the electricity went out in her dorm and her laptop was not charged. So she had to write out her exam. And I always wonder, I'm like, okay, well, I really hope people continue to learn how to write because you might need to use it one day. And I think it's also like a deeply personal question too, right? I think of okay, if you feel like it's a crutch, like you have to be the one. You're the guardrail to figure that out. No one can really tell you that.
Mhm.
And it's really easy to slip into a crutch. So,
Yeah,
yeah, profound.
I really appreciate yeah the fire one and the crutch metaphor and just really like inviting article clubbers to get into like these different metaphors because
Yeah.
I do not know how to start a fire from scratch. Maybe I should.
I don't either. Mhm.
Right. And so, like, again, back to what I think about a lot, which is, do I care about things only because I care about them and I'm good at them? So, for example, a lot of my identity is around being college educated. Also, I do know how to write an email from scratch, no problem. You know what I mean?
I can
And
testify to that.
and so like I actually really like some of some of his students that are not necessarily like identifying because this is a required class. They're not identifying as like a writer and they're
Yeah.
sort of thinking about, okay, well, I'm going to the work world, so to what degree should I use AI versus not? And I really liked the survey responses that he got, from some of these like folks who are not like Cam. Like Cam basically says no, she has this huge transformative experience.
She does.
But others, they're like, well, I feel like I write well enough myself. And so, therefore, what's the problem of using AI?
I thought that was so fascinating. Like the idea of, okay, if someone's self-aware enough to be like, okay, I've gotten to the pinnacle that I can reach. So like if I just keep practicing, is it diminishing returns now? Like why put effort in? I thought that was really, really interesting and something I had not thought about. Again, these people are brilliant.
They're
Sorry to do
so brilliant. I mean, I cannot wait for everybody to listen, not just to Piers, he's wonderful, but also to Cam and Max. Like, again,
that.
I am reminded that the young people are going to be all right, first of all, as an old person, but also they're like so smart and so
They are
like,
really smart.
it's really brilliant to be
Well, these
able.
ones are, Mark.
We need to get some UC Berkeley people on the show too to
Okay,
sort of
yeah,
compare and
that's the next
contrast.
article, everybody, is it'll be West Coast representation.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as you can sort of tell, right? Like this is an article I think that if you're into AI or if you're into education, which a lot of article clubbers out there, like you are, I think this is a great one for you because it's also not too long, but I wanted to also share, like, come and join us, to the discussion. Let me tell you when it is, and then Melinda, you'll do a plug. So we're
Yeah.
going to be doing the discussion on September 28th, Sunday, September 28th at 2 p.m. on Zoom. And you can sign up, and it would be great to have you, whether you've done Article Club or not. So, yeah, Melinda, do you have a plug for why people should go?
I do have a plug, and hopefully, me waxing poetic over here about how much I love UVA will not be a turnoff for you. I think to circle back to what Mark said, that I think is really important is there are a lot of AI like doomsday scenario pieces out there. Please see any literary magazine, any kind of newsman, big journalistic names out there, declaring this the end of mankind. So come read a piece that's actually more curious about it. And I think kind of like a way that we should all, not that there should be a should, I'm not here to prescribe, but I do think this is a far more helpful way to think about AI than, thinking like the Terminator movies are actually happening. I think this is more interesting. I also think it's like a deeply reflective piece because I'm curious, no pressure, not trying to give anyone homework, but like, what's your metaphor for AI? How
Hmm.
does that, and like, how do you think it could fold into your life? And because, technology is going to keep moving forward, things are going to keep being invented. So, like, how do you feel like this is going to serve you if it does at all? And I think that could be really interesting to like talk to other people because that we're kind of our own little classroom. We're sadly not being taught by peers. We're being taught by Mark, which is also wonderful. But our little article club discussion is going to be a little bit like this kind of experiment, I think, or at least I hope so.
I
We're
love
just
that.
as brilliant as these students.
I I love it. Yes. Like what are our metaphors? What is AI for us? How are we using it? And yeah, even though we're like not a grad school classroom, we're still, sort of like a good discussion group and we can pretend that we're in a classroom on Zoom. So I love that. Love that, Melinda. So again, okay, right now, as you are listening to this, it's September 4th. So we've got IRL MGC next weekend on the 13th, right, Melinda?
Yes.
And then you're going to hear from Melinda, not from Melinda, but you're going to hear from Cam and Max and Piers the following week. And then everybody's going to come to the discussion on the 28th.
Yay.
There we have it. Thanks so much, Melinda.
Thanks, Mark.